She whispered when the world expected her to scream. She wore baggy clothes when fame demanded glamour. And somehow, by breaking every rule, she became one of the most powerful voices of her generation. This is the story of Billie Eilish, not just a pop star, but a movement. Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell was born on December 18, 2001, in Los Angeles, California. Raised in a creative household, Billie was homeschooled by her parents, who encouraged art, music, and self-expression over traditional rules. Her brother Phineas O'Connell played a massive role in her life, not just as family, but as her musical partner. From a young age, Billie sang, wrote songs, and explored music freely, without pressure or expectations. That freedom would later become her biggest strength. In 2015, at just 13 years old, Billie recorded a song called Ocean Eyes. It was originally written by Phineas, uploaded quietly to SoundCloud, and then everything changed. The song went viral. Millions listened. The industry took notice. Almost overnight, Billie became a name everyone wanted to know. Unlike typical pop artists, Billie rejected the traditional image of fame. She chose oversized clothing, bold hair colors, and a dark, minimalist aesthetic, not to shock, but to protect herself from judgment. She spoke openly about body shaming, mental health, depression, and self-identity, topics many artists were afraid to touch. Fans didn't just listen to Billie, they felt her. In 2019, Billie released her debut album. When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The album was a global phenomenon. Songs like Bad Guy, Bury a Friend, When the Party's Over dominated charts worldwide. At just 18 years old, Billie made Grammy history, winning 5 major awards in one night, including Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Best New Artist. She became the youngest artist to ever achieve that. Billie's music isn't about perfection, it's about honesty. She writes about fear, fame, heartbreak, pressure, and loneliness. She shows that it's okay to be confused, broken, and still powerful. Her second album, Happier Than Ever, revealed a more mature Billie, stronger, angrier, and more confident in her voice. Despite fame, Billie has always been open about her struggles with mental health, Tourette's syndrome, and the dark side of internet criticism. She has spoken about how fame affected her self-image and relationships, reminding fans that success doesn't erase pain. Her honesty made her relatable, and real. Today, Billie Eilish is more than a singer. She's a fashion icon, a mental health advocate, and a symbol of authenticity in a world full of filters. She continues to evolve, musically, emotionally, and creatively, proving that you don't need to fit in to succeed. Billie Eilish didn't change music by being loud. She changed it by being true. And maybe that's her greatest legacy. Teaching millions that it's okay to be different. And powerful at the same time. This is Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish Pirate Baird O'Connell was born on December 18, 2001, in Los Angeles, California. Her parents, Maggie Baird and Patrick O'Connell, were both artists, musicians, actors, and creatives who believed in freedom over pressure. Instead of traditional schooling, Billie was homeschooled, allowing her to explore music, dance, and songwriting without limitations. She joined the Los Angeles Children's Chorus, where she learned vocal control and emotional expression, skills that would later define her haunting sound. Her home wasn't just a house, it was a studio, a classroom, and a playground for creativity. No Billie Eilish story is complete without Phineas O'Connell. More than a brother, Phineas became her collaborator, producer, and emotional anchor. The two created music in a small bedroom, using minimal equipment, proving that talent and vision matter more. In 2015, Billie recorded a soft, emotional song called Ocean Eyes. The song was uploaded to SoundCloud, meant only for her dance teacher. What happened next was unexpected. The song went viral. Millions listened. Labels called. The internet fell in love with a voice that sounded vulnerable, sad, and powerful all at once. At just 13 years old, Billie's life changed forever. As Billie's popularity grew, the world expected her to follow pop traditions. She refused. Instead of tight dresses and glamorous images, she wore oversized clothing, bold colors, and dark themes. She explained that she wanted to protect her body from judgment and control her own narrative. Billie challenged beauty standards, openly criticizing how young women are sexualized in the industry. Her fans didn't just admire her, they felt represented. Billie never pretended to be perfect. She spoke openly about depression, anxiety, Tourette syndrome, body image struggles, the pressure of fame. At a time when celebrities hid behind filters, Billie showed her scars. Her honesty became a lifeline for millions of young fans who felt unseen. In 2019, Billie released her debut album. When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? The album didn't sound like anything else on the radio. Dark, minimal, uncomfortable, brilliant. Songs like Bad Guy, Bury a Friend, Ilo Milo, When the Party's Over, explored fear, nightmares, and inner demons. The world listened, and couldn't look away. At just 18 years old, Billie Eilish made Grammy history. She won Album of the Year, Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best New Artist, Best Pop Vocal Album. No artist her age had ever done that before. But instead of celebrating fame, Billie spoke about fear of losing herself in success. With success came pressure. Billie faced online hate, body shaming, sexualization by the media, unreal expectations. She admitted that fame made her feel trapped and lonely. In interviews, she revealed how difficult it was to grow up while the world. In 2021, Billie released Happier Than Ever. This album showed growth. She was angrier, stronger, more confident. The title track shocked fans with its explosive ending, a scream of frustration after years of silence. It wasn't just an album. It was a statement. Billie Eilish became a fashion icon on her own terms. She challenged luxury brands, promoted sustainability, and used her platform to speak about climate change, mental health awareness, industry exploitation. She proved that influence can be used responsibly. Today, Billie Eilish is no longer just a teenage sensation. She is a global superstar, an Oscar-winning artist, a voice for mental health, a symbol of authenticity. She continues to evolve, refusing to be boxed into one image or sound. Billie Eilish didn't rise by being perfect. She rose by being real. In a world that demands noise, she chose honesty. In a world that demands beauty, she chose truth. And that is why her story isn't over. It's only just beginning. Musical notes: this was the story of Billie Eilish. Musical notes: Billie Eilish's rise to fame was not driven by industry formulas or manufactured hype, but by an emotional honesty that felt rare in modern pop culture. From the beginning, her voice carried a sense of vulnerability that made listeners feel like they were hearing someone confess private thoughts rather than performing for attention. She did not try to sound powerful in the traditional sense. Instead, she leaned into softness, silence, and restraint, proving that strength can exist in subtlety. This approach challenged long-standing ideas about what a successful pop artist should sound like and opened the door for a new wave of alternative and emotionally driven music. As her fame grew, Billie became increasingly aware of the pressure placed on young women in the music industry. Rather than allowing herself to be shaped by outside expectations, she made deliberate choices to control her image and protect her mental health. Her preference for oversized clothing was not just a fashion statement but a form of self-defense against public judgment and objectification. By speaking openly about this, she sparked global conversations about body autonomy, self-worth, and the right of artists, especially young female artists, to exist without being constantly evaluated through a sexualized lens. Billie's songwriting has always reflected her internal world, often drawing from feelings of fear, sadness, anger, and confusion. Many of her lyrics explore themes of isolation, emotional numbness, and the struggle to understand one's own identity, particularly during adolescence. These themes resonated deeply with younger audiences who felt misunderstood or overwhelmed by their own emotions. Instead of offering easy answers, Billie's music validates discomfort, reminding listeners that it is okay to feel lost, broken, or unsure while still moving forward. The relationship between Billie and her brother Phineas remains one of the most unique creative partnerships in contemporary music. Working together in a small bedroom studio, they rejected overproduction and embraced simplicity, allowing silence and space to play just as important a role as sound. Phineas's minimalist production style perfectly complemented Billie's quiet, expressive vocals, creating a sound that felt intimate and almost unsettling at times. This homegrown method of creating music stood in sharp contrast to the high-budget, factory-like production process used by many mainstream artists. Despite her massive success, Billie has frequently spoken about the emotional toll of fame. She has described moments of deep loneliness, loss of privacy, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched constantly. Growing up in front of millions meant that her mistakes, insecurities, and personal struggles were often turned into headlines or online debates. Rather than hiding from this reality, Billie addressed it directly in interviews and music. Exposing the darker side of celebrity culture and challenging the idea that fame automatically brings happiness, mental health has always been central to Billie's public conversations, particularly her openness about depression and anxiety. She has repeatedly emphasized the importance of seeking help, setting boundaries, and recognizing when success comes at the cost of well-being. By sharing her own struggles, Billie helped normalize discussions around mental health, especially among young people who often feel pressure to appear strong or happy at all times. Her honesty transformed her from a distant celebrity into someone fans felt genuinely connected to. Billie's evolution as an artist became especially visible with the release of her later music, where her sound matured and her lyrics grew more confrontational. She began to express frustration, anger, and empowerment more openly, reflecting her growth as a person navigating adulthood. This transition showed that she was not afraid to change or disappoint expectations, choosing instead to remain authentic to her emotional state at each stage of her life. Her willingness to evolve publicly made her journey feel real rather than staged. Beyond music, Billie has used her platform to advocate for environmental awareness and ethical responsibility. She has spoken about climate change, encouraged sustainable practices within the fashion and music industries, and challenged major brands to reconsider their impact on the planet. By doing so, she demonstrated that influence carries responsibility, and that artists can use their voices to support causes larger than themselves without losing artistic integrity. What makes Billie Eilish truly influential is not just her awards or chart-topping success, but her ability to redefine what it means to be powerful in the modern era. She does not present herself as flawless or untouchable, instead, she allows the world to see her uncertainty, pain, and growth. In doing so, she represents a generation that values authenticity over perfection and emotional truth over polished illusion. Her story continues to unfold, but her impact on music, culture, and self-expression is already undeniable. Billie Eilish's relationship with her audience has always been deeply emotional rather than transactional. She does not present herself as someone above her fans, but as someone walking beside them, sharing fears instead of preaching solutions. This connection has allowed listeners to feel understood rather than instructed, especially those who struggle with anxiety, loneliness, or self-doubt. Her concerts often feel less like performances and more like collective emotional releases, where thousands of people sing quietly together, creating moments of shared vulnerability that are rare in large-scale entertainment. As Billie matured in the public eye, her understanding of power and control evolved. Early in her career, she felt overwhelmed by expectations, contracts, and public opinion, often questioning whether she truly had ownership over her own life. Over time, she learned to assert boundaries, both personally and professionally, choosing when to speak, when to disappear, and when to reinvent herself. This gradual reclaiming of agency became an important part of her story, demonstrating that growth does not always come from success itself, but from learning how to survive it. Billie's approach to fame has consistently rejected artificial perfection. She has openly criticized the way social media creates unrealistic standards, especially for young women, and has spoken about how damaging constant comparison can be. By refusing to curate a flawless image, she allowed herself to exist publicly as a human being rather than a brand. This resistance to perfection culture made her an outlier in an industry obsessed with aesthetics, yet it also made her one of the most relatable figures of her time. Her musical influences reflect a wide emotional range, from classic jazz and alternative rock to dark electronic sounds. Rather than copying any single genre, Billie absorbed moods and atmospheres, blending them into something uniquely her own. This genre-fluid identity allowed her music to exist outside traditional categories, making it difficult to label but easy to feel. Her songs often rely on mood rather than melody, silence rather than noise, and tension rather than release, challenging listeners to slow down and truly listen. Criticism has followed Billie throughout her career, particularly as she transitioned from adolescence into adulthood. Every change in her appearance or sound was dissected, praised by some and attacked by others. Instead of retreating, Billie addressed this scrutiny directly, calling out the double standards imposed on women who grow, change, or express sexuality. Her willingness to confront criticism publicly revealed her growing confidence and refusal to be controlled by public opinion. Billie's experiences with relationships have largely remained private, yet they have deeply influenced her art. Heartbreak, betrayal, and emotional imbalance appear in her lyrics not as gossip, but as reflections of personal growth. She has spoken about learning to recognize unhealthy dynamics and the importance of self-respect, especially for young people navigating love for the first time. By keeping details vague while emotions remain clear, Billie protects her privacy while still allowing listeners to connect with the feelings behind her songs. The pressure of being labeled a voice of a generation has been something Billie has both embraced and resisted. She has repeatedly stated that she does not want to be placed on a pedestal or turned into a symbol that removes her humanity. Yet, through her honesty and consistency, she has naturally become a reference point for emotional authenticity in popular culture. Her influence extends beyond music into how young people talk about mental health, identity, and self-acceptance. As an artist, Billie continuously experiments with discomfort. She is unafraid to create music that feels unsettling, quiet, or emotionally heavy, even when commercial trends favor loud, upbeat sounds. This creative risk-taking reflects her belief that art should challenge rather than comfort, provoke rather than distract. By staying true to this philosophy, she has maintained artistic credibility while achieving mainstream success, a balance few artists manage to sustain. Looking toward the future, Billie Eilish represents a shift in how success is defined. Instead of endless visibility, she values rest. Instead of constant output, she values meaning. Her journey suggests that longevity in art comes from honesty and self-awareness rather than relentless ambition. As she continues to grow, her story remains unfinished, but her impact is already woven into the cultural fabric of a generation that learned, through her, that softness can be strength and silence can be revolutionary. As the lights fade and the music grows quiet, one thing becomes clear: Billie Eilish was never trying to be perfect, and that is exactly why her story matters. In a world obsessed with image, noise, and approval, she chose honesty over illusion and vulnerability over performance. She showed us that strength doesn't always shout, that sometimes it whispers, and that those whispers can still change everything. And don't forget to subscribe to International Broadcast for more deep stories that shape our world.